Hey everybody, I'm John and this is Blind Whiskey Reviews. Hey everybody, and thank you so much for joining me today here on Blind Whiskey Reviews. Today we're doing another segment of No Time Like the Present, where I sit here and do one of the few segments that I don't do blind, and we open a brand new bottle of whiskey, and I let you guys know how this thing's tasting. This was one I put on a poll. If you guys got to vote, thank you very much for voting. This one overwhelmingly won the poll. It got about a third of the votes out of the 5 whiskeys I put up, so definitely had to put this one out here for you. This is the E.H. Taylor Single Barrel Bottled in Bond. So this whiskey obviously has a beautiful presentation. I love the bottle. I love the label. The tube is always cool. So this is another product put out by Buffalo Trace, and a product that's definitely hard to get your hands on these days, and this never used to be the case up until maybe even just a year or two ago. This whiskey was readily available on most shelves. You didn't have a hard time finding it. It goes for somewhere about $65. So if you can get it at retail, I think it's a great deal. But let's get into this thing. You know, as you guys, if you've seen any of these No Time Like the Presents, I love cracking into new bottles, which is why I love the fact that I came up with this segment. So let's get rid of this, get rid of that. Oh yeah. So love the presentation of the whiskey. It has been quite a while since I've had a pour of the E.H. Taylor Single Barrel. The last time I had it was, like I said, a decent amount of time ago with my buddy Ryan out in New Orleans. Ryan, shout out to you, buddy. And actually, Ryan just had a brand new baby boy, so congratulations, bud. This one's to you and your baby. Yeah, so it's been a long time since I've had this pour, and I haven't had a bottle of it, and I couldn't tell you how long. It's been a couple of years at least. So let's get into this whiskey and just see how it is. I know it's going to be good. This whiskey has always been good for me. So on the nose, you just get that classic Buffalo Trace of this big juicy red apple. Hiding behind that is more red fruits, more berry, vanilla. Right now, there's a touch of like an oakiness on the back. Just the slightest hint of an herbal quality. Trying to get this whiskey to open up just a touch for us before we get our first taste. Smelling fantastic, so let's just get into it. Cheers. Right up front, you get all those big fruity notes that I talked about. The big red apple, some of that berry character. Mid palate, the berry kind of takes over a little bit more, and then you get a kick of bitterness moving into the back end of the palate. So mid palate, you get some berry, some vanilla, some caramel sweetness, and then transitioning to the back end of the palate is where like the oaky bitterness kicks in. Let's get another taste. It's definitely tasting about like 100 proof whiskey should. The burn feels right about there. The amount of alcohol, the amount of flavor, all that's really on par with 100 proof whiskey. Like I said, this one's bottled in Bond. I don't know that they put much more on the label these days, but right now, compared to my remembering of other tastes of this whiskey, it's tasting a little more oaky and bitter than I recall. Not necessarily a bad thing. So as I always do with these videos, we're going to take a break, 20-30 minutes, let this whiskey open up just a little bit. Obviously, you watched me open it. It's a fresh pour. Let's let it get some airtime and see how it's doing in a little bit. So let's take a break, and we'll be right back. All right, so it's been about 30 minutes since I left you guys off. This whiskey's been sitting here, opening up just a little bit. I actually haven't tasted or touched it since, so let's get into it and see what we've got. I'd say some of like the rich fruity flavors have actually opened up a little bit. A little bit of that bitterness is backed off, at least on the nose. Let's get into the taste. I'd say just a touch of fruitiness has opened up a little bit. Kind of mid-palate, you're getting a little bit more of that like red fruit character. There's still a pretty heavy amount of bitterness on the back end. I really think this whiskey is going to benefit from opening up a little bit. And as compared to other tastes of this whiskey I've had, and other bottles of this whiskey that I've had, I think that this one is okay. I don't think it's knocking my socks off. Don't get me wrong, it's very good, but I'm trying to compare this to what I remember this whiskey tasting like at other times. And it's not quite living up just yet. However, this was a neck pour, and as with any neck pour, you got to take it with a grain of salt. You don't know if that's really going to be indicative of how the whiskey's going to taste going forward. After you get down to shoulder top, a few pours in, let it sit for a little bit. The air time's really going to allow this whiskey to open up. And I think hopefully back off some of that bitterness, open some of the sweet fruity notes. That's kind of a way that I see Buffalo Trace whiskeys going typically. It's like when they taste a little bit bitter, you get a bottle of like, say, Eagle Rare. That's a 10-year-old product. It's a little oaky, a little bitter. You allow it to open up for a few months, and a lot of that sweetness comes forward. So I think that's probably going to happen with this bottle. But let me get another taste in here. Now, I can totally taste the potential in this whiskey, but I really feel like it needs to open up a bit. So, you guys have told me on my other No Time Like the Present reviews that you would like a scoring, not blind obviously, on these whiskeys. So we can and I think it's a good idea, because you guys told me you wanted to see a score, so that way you can take the score that I gave it when I knew what it was and compare it to the score I give it when I review it blind. And we can kind of compare the two and see how they line up, and if it's, if I'm being unbiased when I'm sitting here giving you this review when I know what the whiskey is, because that's really impossible. Like, you cannot be unbiased when you know what you're tasting. It's really, really difficult. So the only way to be truly unbiased is to do it blind. So I think it's going to be a fun comparison to take the score I give it now and the score I give it when I do it blind. So right now, this whiskey's tasting good, but it's not knocking my socks off, and it really isn't living up to what I think the E.H. Taylor Single Barrel has tasted like to me in the past. So I think I'm going to give this an 84. I think it is a very good whiskey, and I really want to see what this bottle does when it opens up. So I'm going to do what I always do, which is I'm going to pour a sample of this right now into a sample bottle. So when I do the initial blind review, it is of the same whiskey. It hasn't been opened, it hasn't opened up. That way we have a very fair comparison to the whiskey that's in this glass right now. We'll also put it in a few months down the line into a bottle review, or a sample bottle for a speedy sample review. That way we can see how it's doing once it's had a chance to open up. So I'm excited to do both those reviews in the future. Please let me know down in the comments below what you think of the E.H. Taylor Single Barrel. What's your experience been like, and do you think it's a good value? This whiskey goes for $65, and it is a bottled in bond product. So all that means to us is that it's 100 proof, and it's at least 4 years old. So this whiskey I don't know the age on this whiskey. They don't release it. We don't quite know. If I had to guess, I would say this is probably like in that 7-8 year range, if I'm guessing. So it's not incredibly old, it is a little expensive, and realistically, Single Barrel, while it sounds good and has been hyped up over the years to be a premium product, doesn't necessarily mean it's the best version of the whiskey out there. So, is it worth $65? I would say I think that it is in general. Right now, the way this is tasting, I would say probably not. But I do feel like this is definitely going to open up and taste better. So anyways, let me know, what do you think? Is the $65 price tag a little much for you? You do get a nice package and a nice presentation. That is part of the pricing. So is $65 worth it to you for the E.H. Taylor Single Barrel? Let me know in the comments down below. And as always, you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at blind_reviews. You can also catch me on Instagram at Mission Bottle Kill, where I'm posting pictures of all kinds of people emptying great bottles of whiskey. And if you would like me to post your picture, just tag at Mission Bottle Kill when you make the post. You can also send me an email at blindwhiskeyreviews, that's whiskey with an E, at gmail.com. And until next time, cheers.